big emotional challenge that which patient you have to give the treatment, which patient you have to not give the treatment, which you have to make. We have not come across. So it's a huge emotional challenge. By the time when you're going home, you are exhausted. And equally, when you have made the decision about stopping the treatment or not giving treatment, it is in your mind, right? So then it became like, you can't go out, so we got a lockdown. So you're coming from work to home and going back to all emotional challenge. At the same time, we are human, we have the parents, we have your family, and unfortunately 5 my family members, they died due to COVID. I have personal loss. My father died due to COVID. I could not attend his funeral, right, okay? So those type of things, right, okay? So patient dying in the hospital, you have suffered, your family member, but you still, your patient care bringing you to the hospital.
When you work in a high dependency intensive care environment, you family come in and they can see it, they can see what's going on, and you build that relationship up with that patient's family, but you were doing it over the phone. So loved ones were coming into hospital and you knew that the family weren't going to see them again, so the staff really come together in supporting one another and dealing with that.
I think for myself personally and my colleagues as well, some of the biggest challenges we've had is when we've had obviously COVID patients who've been critically ill, when they've been in the kind of final hours of life, they've not been able to see the family. So explaining that to the patients, explaining that to the families has been really tough. So obviously as a nurse we've had to be there for them kind of more than we would have been before, if you know what I mean. So that's been tough.
So what's the impact of COVID on Barnsley? Well, first and foremost, over 800 people have lost their lives. That's part of a national figure of about 130,000. That's the biggest loss of life in the UK and in Barnsley by one event since the Second World War. It's that dramatic. And of course, there's been a massive economic impact. Businesses have gone under, people have lost their jobs. So the impact of this town has been absolutely enormous. And of course, it's something we should never forget.
So many people have lost people. I'm lucky. I've not lost anybody. My daughter had the virus, but not badly. But so many people have got an empty space around the table. So many people have got a picture on the mantelpiece, and that's all they've got now. And that's been a bad thing. For a town like Barnsley that prides itself on togetherness, on kind of speaking the same language, then suddenly part of the people who speak that language have gone.
It's been a story of health inequalities. So, somewhere like Barnsley, whenever there's a big health threat, Barnsley will have a poor effect from it because, as I said, we've got a lot of people who aren't well going into it. So even before the pandemic hit, we had people, we had much higher levels of heart disease, people dying early as a result of that. And the other big thing I think I would say is, populations like Barnsley and others, we've got a lot of people that don't have the luxury of being able to work from home. We have a lot of key workers that needed to go out to work, so we're much more likely to either pick up or transmit the infection.
I've got underlying health conditions myself, hence why I've been shielding throughout this pandemic. So after the first lockdown was over, I did go back into work as guidelines suggested I should do, which made me really happy. But within the 6 weeks, I contracted COVID myself. Unfortunately, I ended up in A&E and been admitted into hospital for quite a few days on oxygen therapy, which is really, really scary. I've got family at home, I've got obviously friends that's been through this as well, so it was a really, really scary time for me.
Ordinary people, so-called ordinary people, have done extraordinary acts of kindness and help, and helping bereaved people and helping ill people, and just being there I'm proud of the way Barnsley's reacted to something that we never thought we'd see, and really had to make up as we went along what to do with.
So what's kept me going in the pandemic is my colleagues in Ruby team. We've all got each other's back, even when we've been on limited staff of 2s and 3s out of a team of 8. It has been very, very challenging. We've had to pick up clinics covering up to 250 women in our caseloads on 2 midwives at times, due to sickness and shielding in our team.
I think obviously everybody's been absolutely out of the comfort zone from the start of it, but everybody's been absolutely incredible. Everybody's pulled together so much, and it's drawn everybody's kind of strengths out, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I think we want to be able to get through it. We are sticking together and looking after each other.
I think we always knew in Barnsley there was a sense of community spirit. If we go back to the miners' strike, it emerged in adversity then. Well, it's emerged in spades during the COVID crisis. And of course, all those people who've worked through this, key workers, National Health Service in particular, obviously, but council staff, all the blue light services, they've put their lives at risk. They've gone out in a world with a virus they couldn't see, they couldn't hear, they couldn't feel or touch, but could kill them. It's as dramatic as that, yet they've put their own personal safety to one side. They've got in our harm's way to make sure not only people are safe, but the borough keeps functioning. It's an incredible effort by the people of Barnsley, and it makes you so proud to know that's happened.
The role of the key worker never been so much important, I reckon, and of course you want them to have more than applause. You want them to be really well paid and really well recognised. You know, that without them, without the key workers, the place, the town, the country would have collapsed, definitely.
Well, the idea for the memorial came from myself and my colleagues on the council talking to our partners and saying, look, this can't go unrecognised. There are thousands of people out here, staff, volunteers. We just can't let this pass us by without knowing and remembering and marking all the service that's been given. And I'm glad to say when I talk to my colleagues on the council, when we talk to the NHS, to the blue light services, to business and community organisations, they said, yes, you're dead right, we need to do something to make sure people don't forget what's gone on here. This is so important, such a big part of Barnsley's history, that something must be done.
It's an object of hope, and that's why I had in my mind right from the beginning. When I thought about it, this could be about something else. It's about paying respect to ordinary people who've done extraordinary things, you know, like the frontline staff, workers that have been out there, and the nurses, the teachers, the kind of services. I think we need to give a nod to them. I'm part of that community, and they are part of that community, and we're all working together, and we all need that hope. Apart from the 7 figures of the kind of frontline workers that are going on like on the pedestal, we're making the pedestal so it looks like a living plinth. We're going to have a kind of a wall of flowers going around it. So this will change throughout the seasons. It will give hope as well. And also at the rear of the plinth, we're going to have a children's plaque where people from primary schools in Barnsley are going to send an image of kind of their kind of frontline staff, like postmen and women or whatever, lorry drivers, truck drivers, their images, and we're going to put them into 3D. So that becomes a child's vision of what COVID meant to them and how they respect these people. You know, we know we're going to get portraits with big ears and eyes lopsided, but that's the fun of it. And I think people will look at that and be uplifted as well.
I think what was really exciting about it was the fact that it was an involvement with the sculptor Graham and the town of Barnsley, and the concept of actually bringing real people into the world, in the sense of where, you know, when you go into Trafalgar Square and all the big squares around Liverpool and stuff, you know, you've got these great bronze statues and stuff, and they're always of some, you know, general on horseback, or, you know, people we don't know or don't remember, some of whom have now been pulled off their horses, of course. But this is actually really exciting, because basically the heart of the sculpture is about bringing the key workers, who are real people, to the memorial in the centre of Barnsley. And part of the process that we've been involved in is along the back of the big plinth is going to be a bronze plaque, and the bronze plaque is made up of drawings, all done by 9-10-year-old kids from school. And the question was asked very simply, you know, who is your favourite key worker, frontline worker? And in fact, I mean, you know, we were in tears in the office getting these letters from these kids and these drawings, and I've got to be honest, about 40% of them were about mum and dad. And that was just brilliant, you know. So I think it's really nice to have this sense of family and sense of society, I suppose. You don't often get that in memorials. They always feel aloof, and I think what we're trying to get here is something that actually is of the people and for the people, and which is, I think, going to be its major strength, really.
You know, we're going through very, very kind of hard times, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So this is to give hope for that, and it's a lasting symbol of hope, because we are going to get out of this.
The council asked me to come up with some words that would go with the memorial and might be a kind of conduit for other ideas of engagement. And I remember writing a poem that was quite long for what we wanted. It was about 12 lines, which was too long. But within it, there was the line, "Barnsley's love holds you forever in its heart." And I remember sending that off, and they went, "It's too long, it's far too long, it's too many words." But when you're working on something for a sculpture or for something visual, you start off with too many words and end up with fewer words. And that's part of the craft of it, if you like, just knocking out the words. And I was interested in that, Barnsley's love holds you forever in its heart. I like that phrase. I like love as a word. I like heart as a word. I knew this was going to go on a neon thing that Patrick Murphy was going to make, and I knew that it had to have some kind of impact. And then I just started thinking about other words for love. And to be honest with you, I remember hearing somebody using the word fierce as a kind of token of emphasis. It went, it's fierce, that is fierce. I thought, fierce, what a word, Barnsley's. And the first draft was, as I remember in my head, Barnsley's love holds you forever in its fierce heart. And it was like the back end of it. And then I thought, what about putting it at the front end of it? Barnsley's fierce love holds you forever in its heart. Fierce is the key word, because fierce is about anger, and it's a kind of, there's a movement in that word fierce. Barnsley's fierce love holds you forever, and the F of fierce and the F of forever go together in that kind of way. So it's quite hard to make one line work, but I think by a process of chipping away, we got that. So Barnsley's fierce love holds you forever in its heart, and the forever is important as well.
The memorial means to me, and I hope to many other people, that we did the right thing by the people of Barnsley, that we didn't forget, that we did recognise what went on. We can never say enough thanks There just aren't enough words. But we can create something everlasting that says the leader of the council, the big agencies, those who can do and influence things, did right by you.
I think just to acknowledge the differences, everybody's had a really different experience of COVID, but key workers who kept going out and exposing themselves to the risks when we didn't have vaccines and we weren't using masks, and people were still working really hard, going above and beyond to keep everybody with the essentials that we needed from all levels. So I just think it's a recognition for everybody.
So it's important key workers are recognised, obviously in the hospital setting, but not just that, throughout the kind of whole work schedules throughout the United Kingdom as well. So there's your supermarket workers, things like that. It's not, I don't find key workers just hospital workers. I find everybody who had to go through it and work through the pandemic key workers.
So, thinking about why it's important to remember people who have lost. I mean, I'm just delighted we're doing this memorial. It was something that we talked about some time ago. I think we're one of the first places to be thinking about doing this. And some people said, is it a bit early? But it's not, because we've got really high rates of death. Sadly, we're kind of one of the highest in the country for the number of people who have died. So it's absolutely fitting that we think about a memorial to those. And for me personally, I'm going to see that memorial as something that reminds us about how important it is to address health inequalities. That's what public health is all about. The fact that places like Barnsley have suffered more than places who have had a lot of affluence or a lot of people in already good health. So for me, the memorial will be about that testament to the fact that we have to get a more just society where some people don't live less long because of where they happen to be born.
Well, I think that a lot thought that it was going to go away, but obviously it's not. It's here for a long time, and the best thing to do is get the vaccine injected. I had it. I've had them both, and I've had no trouble at all, and I would recommend that people get them.